Welcome to the show. Now, the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Yusuf Datti Baba Ahmed, has described as fake all social media accounts created in his name. Addressing journalists in Abuja, Datti Baba Ahmed says since his emergence as running mate to Peter Obi for the 2023 presidential race, impostors hurriedly created accounts in his name, misleading the public. According to him, the fake accounts are too numerous and are being sponsored by political opponents and enemies aimed at tarnishing his reputation. Now he's asking the general public to disregard all information emanating from all social media accounts bearing his name and photographs, as he is not on any social media platform. Baba Ahmed says he will officially announce his presence on various social media platforms pretty soon.
Ever since indications began to appear about my joining the Labour Party, more imposters hurriedly opened more social media accounts in my name, again without my knowledge or approval. We have been saying, please take these down. They are not me, take them down. For 10 years, they have not done. So I have not been active. What you see there are not me. In the last 3 weeks, my honorable team tried to have one verified that has not yet been verified. So up till this moment, I do not have a verified social media. So for safety reasons, consider all of them as unauthentic and fake. All are unauthentic, unverified, and fake.
Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined by the national youth leader of the Labour Party, Eragbe, who will help us to understand some of these issues that are ongoing in the party. So good to have you here. The major problem here facing Labour Party is that it's not just only social media accounts online. We have even several support groups that are not registered by your party, issuing several statements online, and some of your supporters seem to be misled by some of these support groups. But I saw some of the recent efforts you've been putting in place to try to streamline some of these support groups and some of these social media accounts. Just take us into some of those activities that you're embarking upon.
Okay, thank you, fellow Nigerians. Comrade Eragbe Anslem, National Youth Leader, Labour Party, Edo North Senatorial Candidate for Labour Party, also for the 2023 general elections. Quickly, the duties of the National Youth Leader of Labour Party. I have a duty to mainstream, as it were, activities of youth as it affects the party. Now, basically, you are aware that the support groups, the NGOs, the CSOs, these are support structures that come handy in times like this. So, but you agree with me that before our principal, His Excellency, Peter Obi, came to Labour Party, he had worked assiduously with these support groups. So what we did immediately, he became our presidential candidate, was to begin to bring them in. So I have a duty to mainstream them. So what we have done basically is we have developed a site, a national mobilization site called Labour Party National Mobilization.org.ng. Now, in the last 2 weeks, Labour Party had engaged town hall meetings, harmonization programs with the support groups across the 6 geopolitical zones and the FCT. That process is still ongoing as we are talking. But while that is on, the site we have developed has 6 portals. So we have eventually begun to utilize the first portal, which is registration of the support groups. So what we have done deliberately is support groups will go in there, register, and be issued certificates. Now, there are safety valves. For instance, we have tied our portal with the INEC portal. Now, you must have an eligible PVC, the BIN, to go into our portal. Okay. So that's a security feature that will enable us to know that not everybody can just go in there, because then, too, as they do this, another portal is about to be opened up probably today, maybe the end of today. That portal equally will register individuals, both at home and in the diaspora. And in the course of individual registration, Nigerians that belong to support groups will be able to identify with those support groups in the course of registration. Now, those of us in the admin will be able to see ultimately the strength of this support group in the first instance, then the strength of their membership. Now, this arrangement is such that there are 6 IDs we have designed for this registration. for an individual. The first is called a national ID. It tells us how many people ultimately there will be from now to the day of election and beyond.
Okay.
Now, 2 is called the state ID. It tells us exactly what state in the federation are you from, your details of registration. 3, because it tells us your local government ID. Where in Nigeria you register to vote the local government. Now, again, it tells us about your polling unit ID, which is within your ward. So we're able to know. So all of this now, your VIN is an ID. Now, all of these are to enable us to actually do effective planning. And by effective planning, Labour Party is looking at the polling unit areas.
Yeah, I mean, actually, to harvest some of these voters by the time campaigns commence, and then, of course, when voting eventually is done on February 25th and so on. Now, let's talk about why it's difficult, prior to now, to actually get the Labour Party to have very good structure and very good platform. Because as it stands right now, a lot of organizations just seem to be cashing in on the Peter Obi fever in the Labour Party to just issue statements or attack individuals. And of course, you must have seen what's going on online with some people even alleging that your supporters are threatening them and all of that. How do you try to mainstream all these groups so that you know those who are your party members and of course those that are not your party members that are alleged to be threatening people and all of that?
Yeah, thank you. Certainly, like I began to talk about, I said there are 6 portals. The first portal, ideally, is the portal for membership registration. I just began to explain that. When you do that successfully and you have a feedback that you have a membership card. So this portal issues you a membership card, first and foremost, because you must be an eligible voter for that portal to submit. That is one. Now, I talked about the other portal, which is for the support group. Now, you agree with me, since the coming of His Excellency Peter Obi, I mean, it's a product that is sellable, I mean, from his track record. It has become clearer, even from the state of the economy and the issues that have pervaded us as a people, insecurity and the rest. Now, the people are beginning to see a light. So it is that light that is now attracting everybody.
Yeah, but you also have to manage them so that it doesn't give you bad publicity. Because right now, people are beginning to complain that there seems to be what looks like an online mobster. That if anyone says anything contrary to your candidate's expectations, then of course the person is attacked. And of course, you would have seen Dati Baba Ahmed, your vice presidential candidate, coming out. The idea here for his coming out is to actually denounce some of the things that have gone on, where some of the accounts that are supposedly linked to him are being used to attack other presidential candidates and other political parties and all of that. Although even your own party's presidential candidate and VP candidate are also being attacked. But how do you prevent people from misinterpreting the Labour Party as a vehicle for winning election, being seen like, in quote, a mobster party also?
Don't forget that we have become the darling of the people, and the opposition parties, the APC, the PDP, and the rest of them are not asleep. I mean, we are giving them, as it were now, a run for their money. Most likely, like you know, Labour Party and the supporter couldn't have been the one doing this. Not at all. So it is those.
Are you sure? I mean, because your political opponents are always saying it online, that a lot of your hardcore supporters just seem to be prepared to just, I mean, throw in everything, including, like you must have seen a journalist who wrote, I mean, a scathing article against the Labour Party presidential candidate, Sam Omashe. I mean, he also got a very good dose of these supporters trying to hit back at him and all of that. But how do you make sure that, you know, rational voters see your party as a party that's well designed for victory, not just a collection of people who are not prepared to, you know, listen to the other side or face criticism from the other side?
Let me say something. Our vice presidential candidate has made it obvious that people are creating accounts in his name, doing all manner of things. Let me tell you this, and he will tell you also. I've had to send him chats where from his social media handle, people interacted supposedly with him, making certain requests. And those requests came to my Twitter handle. So for clarity and clarification, I had to communicate such for his approval to confirm if that was real. It was fake. So obviously I'm saying, just like he said, thank God he has said it openly. a lot of persons. Of course, people working for him couldn't have been doing all of this, because what they are doing is against his principles, what he represents and what the party represents. I'm just giving you an instance now, personally, and he can attest to what I said. So, but what we have done now is we are beginning to bring fellow Nigerians, both at home and in the diaspora, to an organized system. It is that system I began to talk about also. We have developed a portal, first and foremost. For the first time, Labour Party, we know every member within its fold across the length and breadth of this country. 2, this information will enable us to prepare effectively as we get towards the electioneering processes and ultimately the elections. Now 3, you agree with me that if we must change the narrative, statistics or data is important. Nigeria is a country to a large extent where we have not taken into consideration the effective utilization of data. And I think for the first time, Labour Party has put in place a mechanism.
Well, it wouldn't be for the first time, because we've seen the PDP,
there are
APC
features,
and other political parties organizing their database and digitizing their membership.
But there are unique features we have introduced.
Okay, so what are those unique features that's different from that of the PDP or APC
for instance,
or ABGA?
For instance, like I said, for the first time, we will know who are those the eligible voters within our fold. It's a unique feature. It's a unique feature. 2, like we said, even though we are scattered across the country, if you mean well for us, you are one of our supporters, you can log in. Because we have had instances where people say Labour Party does not have structure. We said, of course, we know we have structure, but we know what they mean. People go about looking for Labour Party's offices here and there. But what we have said is this: every support group, NGO, CSO that register with us, begin to utilize your own space as a mini unit, Secretariat of Labour Party. So these are unique features we are equally introducing. Okay. Now, there are means of identification for the first time. So, like you said, people have showed you certificates. Yes, those certificates are genuine. They were issued by our platform.
Mainstreaming the support group. Now, you had the issues of the crisis that has befallen supposedly the coalition, because of course we had a group of say 49 or thereabout of different groups who came together under a coalition with their own understanding, and so many other factors are played out. But what we said is, when you come into the system, because the Labour Party has a duty under the National Youth Leader as a directorate to mainstream and manage this activity, so they come in singly, keeping their identities. Now we're able to work together. Okay, I'll just ask you to hold on there while we go on this short break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Welcome back to the Rise interview. I'm Somna Sambo, and of course, we still have with us the National Youth Leader of the Labour Party, who is also the Edo North senatorial candidate of the party in the 2023 general election, Anselm Eragbe. So good to still have you here with us.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about the preparation for the 2023 general election and these support groups. You must admit, just like the Peter Obi, who's the presidential candidate, has, that sometimes the sort of rhetoric that comes out of your supporters can be very vile and all of that. What sort of mechanism are you putting in place to ensure that by the time your campaign starts, we don't have a situation whereby there's an engagement in rhetoric that may lead to violence or clashes because of the kind of campaign messages that may be emanating from your supporters?
Basically, let me say, don't forget that there's a history here. Only recently, the matter of the security brutality against the youth of this country, surfaced 2020. That culminated in NSAS, where young Nigerians already believe they need a new kind of leadership. They need a country that will function properly for them and generations yet unborn. So these are issues. But again, I actually would really want to dissociate our supporters from any act of stalking people on the social media or bullying people as the allegations are today. Labour Party, working with the labor movement, Just like we say always, the Labour Party is the baby of the Labour movement. And the philosophy or ideology of the Labour movement is social democracy, a state of enhanced welfare for the well-being of the people and ultimately improve security. Because governance or government is about what? Primarily, the protection of life and property. So security is key. Now, so for Labour Party, I think what we are doing basically and our followers in the days ahead as we prepare for 2023 general elections.
Yeah, especially the campaigns.
Yes, the campaigns, because 28. People said before now that the Labour Party was docile, that we are the problem, we are not doing anything. No, I've had calls on different spaces to say no. First and foremost, we need to take care of administration. Now, and we have designed a process that will ultimately bring our supporters across the length and breadth of this country into a platform where we're able to manage them, where we will know them and manage the processes. Now, we have developed 277 working committees cutting across the different spheres and sectors of human endeavor.
So you're trying to put in place the structure
yes,
that you've been accused of not having.
So in the days ahead, we have already begun that since Monday. Now, I just asked another very vital question. On Monday, I sent out the notification to say Nigerians at home and in the diaspora can begin to log on to the portal and register the groups. I can tell you in less than, from Monday, this is Wednesday, less than 72 hours, we have hundreds. When I mean hundreds, close to 1,000.
Yeah, but the APC will tell you that they have over 5,000.
I am coming.
Atiku Abubakar too, and his campaign organization are saying that it's going beyond 5,000 too.
I talked about the uniqueness of what we are doing. And what is the uniqueness? The first entry point, even though this would have been the second entry point, is now the first. First, the support group. No, as a political party, the structures are the National Working Committee. I'm a National Working Committee member of the party. We have the State Executive Council, we have the local government, and the World Council. So these are structures of the party. Now you have Nigerians who don't belong amongst these listed structures. Now it then means
who have sympathy for your party.
Sympathy, yes, and are working assiduously. You and I can attest to the extent to which Nigerians have made commitment in resources, their energies, their time, over what they believe. And what do they believe in? They believe in a man, His Excellency Peter Obi. So Labour Party, what we need to do is to give the backbone, the foundation, bring out the programs to engage the people, organize them in such a way that those programs will be, implemented. Now, in the course of doing all this, like I said, first and foremost, we have rolled out, okay, let's say this evening, because we are in a National Working Committee emergency meeting. I have to rush here.
Yeah, of course, we have to thank you for taking out some time to actually be here on the show.
By the time we come out from this meeting this evening, you will see other policies that will be rolled out. All of those policies have been designed already and implemented in the system.
But I just hope that you're not leaving the older generation behind, because it just seems like your target is more of the young people. Are you carrying the older generation along? Because you need those older generation of voters too.
Certainly, there is no way we can do without the older generation, because these are our parents. But the trend in politics is a game of number. And basically, the number is domiciled within the youth fold.
Yeah, especially with the latest figures from the INEC registration, voter registration.
And this is where I come in at my office to interface, engage with the youth, basically now organize them productively to deliver the mandate, then afterwards, while in government, ensure that the policies we have developed are implemented. So I think we have begun on a very good footing, just like I say, but in the days ahead, Nigerians will come to terms with the reality. And what is the reality? That we are beginning to organize the entire process. Now, people may say, we are on the social media. But of course, the social media is for information. But again, we are the grassroots. Like I said, the labor movement in Nigeria registered the Labour Party. You agree with me, the NLC, the TUC, the trade unions, the political commission of the labor movement, cut across the several.
Yeah, but the same Nigeria Labour Congress is supporting the APC, for example, in Kebbi State, because the national vice president of the NLC is the governorship candidate of APC in Kebbi. So how are you going to tackle those kind of situations whereby local politics in some states will determine that the Labour Party, the Nigeria Labour Congress wouldn't support Labour Party candidates in some of these states because of the peculiarities of the politics
let us accept what you have said, because that man is ours. Again, politics is local.
How is he yours when he's the flag bearer of the APC?
Of course,
in the
when he gets,
election?
I pray he wins on the platform of APC, but I can assure you, immediately he wins, he's coming back home.
He will defect to the Labour Party.
He will definitely come back home.
Okay.
Because why? That is it's only on the platform of Labour Party that he can implement the people, policies that are applicable to the people. Welfare issues.
Okay. How do you ensure that this youth-backed Labour Party doesn't miss out on the message like it happened? You mentioned the issue of NSAS. Yeah. Now, when NSAS started, the protest was well received, including the government saying that, look, there was a genuine cause. But later on, it looked like the message was lost. And of course, you saw all that happened. And then this beautiful movement eventually ended up being accused of, losing the core message, which was police reforms. How do you ensure that, with all that we've seen happening, including your vice presidential candidate coming out to deny some of these social media accounts, the Labour Party doesn't lose its main message, which is, if Nigerians accept, to create a new sort of polity?
Thank you. You find out that something unique or peculiar happened with the NSAS struggle. There was no leadership. You cannot have a successful process where there is no leadership. There ought to be leadership. You and I know that there was no leadership. At the end of the NSAS struggle, I had to put together all the demands of Nigeria youth in this country, and I wrote to the President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, and copied relevant authorities in Nigeria on that demand. I provided leadership ultimately, because if I did not, as the national youth leader of Labour Party, so I had to provide that leadership ultimately so that the message was not lost. Now I'm here as the national youth leader of Labour Party. Already I'm providing leadership. So, but because there's leadership, just like I began to say, now we are beginning to first bring the groups into the fold, mainstream them, design programs, design projects, engage them.
Yeah, but just before I let you go, what will you say to some, that I've had on this show who say that the Labour Party is an extension of the People's Democratic Party? Because Peter Obi and Yusuf Datti were former members of the PDP. Just because they lost out in the PDP, they found themselves in the Labour Party.
So the good thing about Labour Party is this is the People's Party. Artisans, farmers.
So it's not an extension of the PDP?
It's not an elitist. Notwithstanding their status in society, where they are coming from, but their philosophy of life, like we have all seen. Obi's philosophy of life is about the common good for the greater number of people. Talking about moving Nigeria from consumption to production through one means, productivity. So engaging the people.
There's no fear that Obi or Yusuf may go back to the PDP if they lose out.
We don't believe there's any fear, because they are in our fold and we are together. So the policies to be implemented, are going to be done by all of us.
Okay, we must thank you so much. Anselm Eragbe is the national youth leader of the Labour Party and, of course, the Edo senatorial candidate, Edo North senatorial candidate of the party. And, of course, I won't start asking you what you will do for your Edo North, because it's not yet time for campaigns. Once it's time for campaigns, we'll have you here to tell your constituents. Well, we must thank you for being on the show.